Welcome everyone. Today, we are tackling a sophisticated academic passage to sharpen your TOEFL reading skills. Human cognition and cognitive load. The title Human Cognition and Cognitive Load Theory immediately prepares us for a discussion on how the mind processes information. Unlike long-term memory, which has a nearly infinite capacity for facts and experiences, working memory is strictly limited in terms of both time and volume. Here, the author uses a sharp contrast to define the nature of our memory systems. While long-term memory is noted for its infinite, researchers have traditionally suggested that most individuals can only retain about 7 items at once, such as a string of digits or unrelated words, for a very short duration. The phrase traditionally suggested indicates a widely accepted scientific viewpoint regarding our mental constraints. This sentence provides a concrete metric 7 items at once to illustrate just how small our immediate processing window really is. This cognitive bottleneck means that if a BS is 4 introduces the term cognitive bottleneck to create a vivid mental image of information getting stuck. This metaphor explains why processing effectively diminishes when we are overwhelmed, leading directly to memory loss. To address these biological limitations, educational psychologists developed cognitive load theory, which categorizes the mental effort required for learning into 3 specific types. As we move into the second paragraph, the text shifts from biology to application. The transition to address these biological limitations shows that cognitive load theory was created as a direct solution to the constraints of the human brain. Intrinsic load refers to the inherent difficulty of the material itself, while extraneous load is the unnecessary mental effort caused by poor instructional design or distracting environments. This sentence provides essential definitions by distinguishing between intrinsic load and extraneous load. Notice the academic vocabulary word inherent, which describes difficulty that is a natural part of the material itself. When teachers or presenters organize data in a disorganized manner, they inadvertently overload the student's working memory with irrelevant details. The author uses the word inadvertently to show that teachers often don't mean to make things hard, yet they still overload the student. When information is presented in a cumbersome way, it fills the mind with irrelevant details that block learning. The transition word consequently signals a cause and effect relationship. Because of poor presentation, the brain wastes energy on navigating the format instead of understanding the actual content. Effective instruction aims to minimize extraneous load while maximizing germane load, which represents the mental effort dedicated to creating permanent schemas in long-term memory. The text now moves to a conclusion about effective instruction. The goal is to maximize germane load, which the author defines as the effort used to build permanent schemas, long-term mental maps of information. Techniques such as segmenting complex information into smaller, manageable chunks and using both visual and auditory cues simultaneously can help bypass the inherent limitations of working memory. This sentence offers practical solutions. Ultimately, understanding the mechanics of how the brain processes data allows for the creation of more efficient learning environments that respect the natural biological boundaries of the human mind. The final sentence summarizes the author's ultimate point. By respecting natural biological boundaries, we can create efficient learning environments that truly work for the human mind. What is the passage mainly about? Let's take a closer look at option A. The history of formal education in the 20th century. This option is a distractor because it mentions history and 20th century, which are never discussed in the text. The passage is scientific, not a historical timeline. We should eliminate this option. Now, let's examine option B. The mechanics of working memory and cognitive load theory. This is a very strong candidate. It accurately captures the mechanics of working memory from paragraph 1 and cognitive load theory from paragraph 2. It covers the full scope of the passage. Let's keep it. Here's option C. Let's break it down. The biological evolution of long-term memory. While the text mentions memory, it does not focus on biological evolution. It describes how memory works currently, not how it changed over time. We can eliminate this. Finally, let's look at option D. The impact of auditory cues on language acquisition. This option is too narrow. Although auditory cues are mentioned in the final paragraph, they are just one example of a technique, not the main subject of the entire passage. Eliminate this. Therefore, the correct answer is option B, because it encompasses both the psychological limitations and the educational theory designed to manage them as described throughout the text. The word in paragraph 2 is closest in meaning to. Let's take a closer look at option A. Simple, simple. Now, let's examine option B. Natural, natural. The word natural does not fit the context of a disorganized manner created by a presenter. It doesn't capture the difficulty implied by the text. Eliminate this. Here's option C. Let's break it down. Frequent. Frequent refers to how often something happens, but the sentence is describing the quality of the presentation. It doesn't make sense here. Eliminate this. Finally, let's look at option D. Awkward, awkward. The word awkward is a perfect fit. It matches the idea of a confusing presentation that is difficult to navigate. It correctly reflects the meaning of cumbersome in this context. Let's keep it. The correct answer to this question is option D, since awkward correctly identifies the difficult and inefficient nature of the disorganized information mentioned in paragraph 2. According to paragraph 1, what is the cognitive bottleneck? This is a factual detail question. You need to locate the term cognitive bottleneck in paragraph 1 and see what it refers to in the surrounding sentences. Now, keeping this in mind, let's evaluate our options. Let's take a closer look at option A. The ability to ignore sensory inputs in noisy environments. The text does not mention noisy environments in paragraph. Now, let's examine option B. The limitation in volume and duration of working memory. Here's option C. Let's break it down. The speed at which neurons transmit electrical signals. The passage discusses memory systems, not the physical speed of neurons or electrical signals. This is too much focus on biology not present in the text. Eliminate this. Finally, let's look at option D. The infinite storage capacity of the long-term memory. This is a direct contradiction. Paragraph 2 mentions all of the following as types of cognitive load except. This is an except question. You need to find the 3 types of load mentioned in paragraph 2 and paragraph 3, and then identify the one option that is not listed. Now, keeping this in mind, let's evaluate our options. Let's take a closer look at option A. Intrinsic load. The passage explicitly mentions intrinsic load in paragraph 2 as the difficulty of the material. Since it is in the text, it is not our answer. Eliminate this. Now, let's examine option B. Sensory load. The term sensory load is never used in the passage. While the text mentions sensory information, it does not list it as a type of cognitive load. This is the correct choice for an except question. Here's option C. Let's break it down. Extraneous load. The text defines extraneous load in paragraph 2 as unnecessary effort from poor design. Because it is mentioned, we eliminate it. Finally, let's look at option D. Germane load. Paragraph 3 introduces germane load as the effort used for long-term memory. Since it is present in the passage, it is not the correct answer for this except question. Eliminate this. Therefore, the correct answer is option B, because while the other 3 types are explicitly defined as categories of load, sensory load is never mentioned in the text. What is the relationship between paragraph 1 and paragraph 2? This question asks about the relationship between the first 2 paragraphs. Look for how the biological facts in the first paragraph lead into the psychological theory in the second. Now, keeping this in mind, let's evaluate our options. Let's take a closer look at option A. Paragraph 3 lists the careers, while paragraph 2 lists the theories. This option is factually incorrect. Paragraph 3 does not list careers, and paragraph 2 focuses on the types of load, not just a list of theories. Eliminate this. Now, let's examine option B. Paragraph 1 provides a biological basis for the theory described in paragraph 2. This is the correct choice. Paragraph 1 describes the biological basis, the limits of working memory, which provides the reason why the theory in paragraph 2 was developed. Let's keep it. Here's option C. Let's break it down. Paragraph 1 discusses adults, while paragraph 2 focuses on children. The passage doesn't make a distinction between adults and children. It talks about human cognition and learners in general. We should eliminate this. Finally, let's look at option D. Paragraph 2 offers a critique that disproves the data in paragraph 1. This is wrong because paragraph 2 actually supports paragraph 1. It does not disprove or critique it. It builds upon the facts mentioned earlier. Eliminate this. The correct answer to this question is option B, since paragraph 1 establishes the biological limitations that the cognitive load theory in paragraph 2 aims to solve. To master these academic reading tasks, always look for the logical bridge between paragraphs. Pay close attention to transition phrases like "to address these limitations," which reveal how one idea leads to the next. Practice identifying these connections, and you'll find the main idea and relationship questions much easier to solve.